Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I wanted to talk about Hamlet again. Um, in a previous video, I talked about Hamlet. A spiritual interpretation of Hamlet is about balance or harmony. And Bacon uses the rhetorical device of antithesis to show that balance and the need for balance in achieving God consciousness in order to remember God. Um, but a psychological interpretation of Bacon's use of the rhetorical device of antithesis is the power of reasoning and how too much reasoning, as in the case of Hamlet, causes delay of action. When Hamlet, after Hamlet meets the ghost, he says, I will remember what you've said. I'll remember you, and I will take revenge on Claudius. But then he goes on to say, well, the spirit that I have seen may be the devil, and the devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape. So again, he's beginning to think in dualities, right? This is part of the thinking mind, is to see things dualistically. And so Hamlet, um, let me take a step back. Bacon, being a lawyer and being a good lawyer, he would have to see things from two sides. He would have to see outcomes, uh, to use it in a more modern context. How might the prosecution attack the case, and what are those outcomes? How might the defense conduct a case, and what are the outcomes of that? And seeing both. So again, I think this also gives more credence to Bacon being the writer of the Shakespeare plays, because of this wonderful tendency to see the duality of things. I'm not saying that other writers don't do that, but you can tell the Shakespeare writer has spent a lot of time in thinking in dualistic reasoning. Not to mention, um, the legal concepts that are used in Shakespeare would have to have been written by someone who has spent a lot of time studying law, not just someone who has a few cases and is interacting with a lawyer barrister. It would have had someone to who knows the law, studied the law, can place that law within the framework of a story that takes, a great amount of time, which the gentleman from Stratford upon Avon did not do. So over time, Hamlet continues to reason, right? One, he says, well, I don't have hard evidence of Claudius being the killer of my father. So he says, I'll conduct a play to gather evidence and to observe his behavior. Again, those who've studied Bacon can see the scientific theory there. But again, so he does that. He says, "Oh, I will do that. I will conduct um, a play to find out if Claudius, in fact, did kill my father." His to be or not to be soliloquy. I just want to talk about that in a second. That again is the reasoning mind. One interpretation that has been brought forth a lot is, should I continue to live or not live? Right? Another interpretation could be, should I go against Claudius, basically take up a sea of troubles by doing that, or I guess let let be and let live. So again, Hamlet is constantly reasoning. And again, Bacon uses that rhetorical device of antithesis to show that, right? So he does come to the play. He creates the play. And I think I've mentioned this in other videos. You can see Hamlet's psychology changes when he's interacting or using art. He seems more alive. He seems more kind. As other interpreters have mentioned, he's even kind to Polonius. You know, there's something about the way he treats Polonius that is much different than throughout the rest of the play. And then once the play starts, and once he does observe Claudius being guilty and Claudius asking for light, and again, remember, light in Shakespeare is always a symbol, or one of the meanings of that symbol is understanding, greater insight, greater understanding, uh, greater intelligence, greater reflection, all those sorts of things. So he catches Claudius, and after Claudius goes away, the queen goes away. He and Horatio discuss, what they saw, and Hamlet becomes ecstatic. He's over the moon about what happened. And of course, an obvious reason for his excitement is he's got his guy. He knows for sure that he killed King Hamlet. I think another interpretation could be in the context of reasoning, delay, and action, is that he actually used his reasoning intelligently. He used it in a creative way. His reasoning, he used his action in a creative way, and he did something. So again, so he committed an action by conducting this play. He's the one who put this play on. So the reason for his excitement in the context of what we're talking is that he actually did something. He did do something. So he's excited because he actually did commit an action, and by committing that action without hurting anyone, he discovered the truth. But of course, he destroys the outcome of that action. Uh, of course, by how he acts during the play, kind of showing contempt for Claudius during the play, and then obviously showing contempt after the play. So, and again, action, the ability to act, is brought forward in a comedic way in in the Gravedigger scene in Act 5. The Gravedigger, in a lawyerly way, describes what an action is, right? It has three branches: to act, to do, and to perform. So again, Bacon again is showing that this play is about reasoning. It is about delay due to that reasoning, delay of action, and that one can find truth more by doing necessarily than reasoning. This also goes back to Bacon was frustrated that a lot of scholars at the time were reasoning about reasonings of Aristotle and other philosophers instead of actually going out and observing nature and coming to conclusions about nature, right? His inductive and deductive reasoning. He used both. He didn't only use inductive, he also used deductive reasoning. Um, so that whole scene, that whole Gravedigger scene, that is a key piece Again, the gravedigger is talking about Ophelia's death. Did she actively commit suicide, or did something happen to her that caused her death? So again, he's describing what is action. And again, it's a Shakespearean trope. Bacon often points in either comedic dialogue or in dialogue that appears to be rather unimportant. He actually puts in the most important piece of that play, the most important meaning of the play. So again, that gravedigger scene, he's talking about Ophelia's actions. He says, he's defining action again, kind of in a legalistic way. The definition of action is to act, to do, to perform. So I guess I'll just end it there. So that Hamlet is very much about reasoning. So, something could be this, it could be that, it could be that, it could be this. And Hamlet gets lost in thought. And he doesn't it's not boiled down into action. And, in Bacon's time, soldiers were looked upon, with great esteem. Scholars were looked upon with great esteem. So, and if someone could kind of combine the two, they were seen, their great reverence was given to them, I think. And again, this kind of also comes into the Bacon Raleigh dynamic too. Raleigh being maybe more of the soldier, more of the active type, and Francis being more of the philosophic, contemplative type. Just comment below what comments or questions do you have about Hamlet, about his reasoning causing his delay in action. Um, if the play was a comedy, meaning where things end up well for most parties or all parties, it would have been at the end of the play. It would have been when Hamlet used his creative ability to to use art in order to discover truth. Okay, much like Bacon did with his Shakespeare plays. And of course, he used a lot of hidden messages within his plays to um, to inform the public about truths of his own life and Raleigh's life and other people's lives. Please like and subscribe if you like the content. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.